The wind screamed across the Nevada desert the day Marcus Rivera pulled his rattling truck to a stop in front of what used to be the Ashford estate. His daughter Emma pressed her face to the window, her breath fogging the glass. "It looks haunted, Dad," she whispered. Marcus didn't disagree. The mansion loomed against the bruised desert sky like a broken tooth. 3 stories of peeling paint, shattered windows, and sagging balconies that seemed one strong gust away from collapse. The auction listing had called it a fixer-upper with historical significance. What they meant was, this place should have been bulldozed 20 years ago. Beside Emma in the back seat, Atlas shifted. The German Shepherd mix had been Marcus's shadow since Afghanistan. Through the IED blast that took his hearing in one ear, through the divorce that took everything else, through the nights when the ghosts pressed so close Marcus could barely breathe. Now Atlas's ears were pinned forward, body rigid, staring at the mansion with an intensity Marcus had only seen twice before, both times seconds before mortars hit. "Easy, boy," Marcus murmured, though unease crawled up his spine. Emma was 12, old enough to understand why they were here. The custody battle had drained Marcus's savings. His ex-wife's lawyer painted him as unstable, dangerous, a broken soldier who couldn't provide stability. The judge gave Marcus supervised visits and a warning. Get your life together or lose Emma permanently. This mansion, sold at county auction for unpaid taxes, cost him $50. $50 for 14 rooms, 6 acres, and a roof that probably leaked like a sieve. It was insane. Desperate. His last chance. "Can we really live here?" Emma asked, doubt threading through her voice. Marcus swallowed hard. "We're going to try, sweetheart." He stepped out into the biting wind. December in Nevada wasn't like the brutal cold of Montana or the bone-deep chill of the mountains, but it carried its own harshness, dry, cutting, relentless. Tumbleweeds skittered across the overgrown driveway. A rusted iron gate hung crooked on one hinge, squeaking as the wind pushed it back and forth. Atlas jumped down from the truck and immediately began pacing, nose to the ground, circling the front of the mansion in tight, methodical sweeps. Marcus had seen this behavior before. The dog was mapping threats, cataloging scents, preparing for danger. "What's he doing?" Emma asked, climbing out with her backpack clutched to her chest. "Just checking things out," Marcus said, though his pulse quickened. "Atlas is careful." They approached the front door together. The porch groaned under their weight, boards soft with rot. Marcus tested each step before putting his full weight down. The door itself was massive, carved oak that must have cost a fortune a century ago, now warped and split down the middle. He pushed. It didn't budge. He pushed harder. With a shriek of rusted hinges, the door swung inward, releasing a breath of stale air that smelled of dust, mildew, and something faintly metallic. Inside, the mansion yawned into darkness. A grand staircase swept upward, its banister missing half its spindles. Chandeliers hung crooked from water-stained ceilings. Wallpaper peeled in long, curling strips, revealing plaster underneath that had crumbled to powder in places. Emma stayed close to Marcus's side. "Dad, are you sure about this?" He wasn't, but he nodded anyway. "We'll make it work." Atlas trotted inside ahead of them, claws clicking on the marble floor. The sound echoed strangely, as if the house were larger on the inside than it appeared from outside. The dog moved room to room, sniffing corners, pausing at doorways, tail low. Marcus followed him through what must have been a ballroom, empty except for a single broken chair and mountains of dust. Then a library with empty shelves. A dining room with a table so long Marcus couldn't see the far end in the dim light. And then Atlas stopped. The dog stood in the center of what looked like a study, staring at the floor. His ears were pinned back, a low whine building in his throat. "What is it, buddy?" Marcus knelt beside him. Atlas pawed at the floor. Once. Twice. Then he looked up at Marcus with eyes that said, "Pay attention." Marcus ran his hand across the floorboards. They looked normal. Oak planks, scarred and dusty, nothing unusual. But when he knocked on one, the sound rang hollow. His stomach tightened. Emma appeared in the doorway. "Did you find something?" "Maybe," Marcus said. He pressed along the edges of the plank, searching for a seam. His fingers caught on something. A small indent, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. He pressed. The board clicked. Atlas barked, sharp, urgent. And the floor opened. Not the single board. A whole section, 6 feet by 6 feet, dropped an inch, then slid sideways with a grinding sound of old mechanisms waking after decades of sleep. Beneath it, stairs descended into absolute darkness. Emma gasped, "Dad, what is that?" Marcus stared into the opening, his heart pounding. He'd seen hidden rooms before, overseas in compounds where insurgents stashed weapons or hostages. But this wasn't a war zone. This was a mansion in the Nevada desert that he'd bought for $50. Atlas didn't hesitate. The dog stepped onto the first stair, looking back as if to say, "Follow me." "Stay here," Marcus told Emma. "No way," she said, voice shaking but firm. "I'm not staying alone." He wanted to argue, but the fear in her eyes stopped him. "Okay, but you stay behind me. Always." He pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and descended. The stairs were stone, not wood. Cold, precise, carved with the kind of craftsmanship that spoke of serious money and deliberate engineering. The air grew colder with each step, carrying that metallic scent Marcus had noticed before, sharper now, almost like old coins. At the bottom, the flashlight beam revealed a room. No, a vault. The walls were reinforced concrete. Steel beams crossed the ceiling, and lining every surface were shelves. Rows and rows of shelves. And on those shelves sat stacks of gold bars. Marcus froze. Emma whispered, "Dad." He couldn't speak, couldn't move. The beam of his phone swept across the room, illuminating more gold than he'd ever seen outside of a museum. Bars stamped with dates, serial numbers, official seals. Some were wrapped in cloth that had rotted to threads. Others sat bare, gleaming dully in the light. Atlas trotted to the center of the room and sat, tail wagging slowly, as if to say, "I told you." Marcus's legs trembled. He forced himself to step forward to touch one of the bars. It was real, heavy, cold. "Is that?" Emma's voice cracked. "Is that gold?" "Yeah," Marcus breathed. "I think it is." His mind raced. This wasn't possible. People didn't just leave millions of dollars in gold under abandoned mansions. This had to be a mistake, a trick, something illegal. But Atlas wasn't reacting like there was danger. The dog was calm now, watching Marcus with steady eyes. Emma moved closer, staring at the shelves. "How much is here?" "I don't know," Marcus whispered. "A lot." On a small metal table in the corner sat an old leather-bound journal and a sealed envelope. Marcus approached slowly, as if the items might disintegrate if he moved too fast. The envelope was addressed in faded ink, "To whoever finds this room." His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the handwriting elegant but hurried. "If you're reading this, then the Ashford family is gone, and our secrets have finally surfaced. This gold was never ours by right. My grandfather took it during the Silver Rush, through deception and cruelty, destroying families and lives to build this empire. I couldn't return it. Too many were already dead, too much time had passed. So I hid it, buried it where only someone desperate enough to buy this cursed house would ever find it. If you found this room, you were meant to. Use it to build something better than what the Ashfords destroyed. Give it purpose. Give it light." Eleanor Ashford, 1962. Marcus read it twice, then a third time, his throat tight. Emma leaned against him. "What does it say?" "It says," Marcus's voice cracked, "it says we were supposed to find this." Atlas nudged his hand, grounding him. Outside, the wind howled. But down here, in this hidden vault beneath a $50 mansion, Marcus Rivera felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The first night in the mansion, Marcus didn't sleep. He sat on the floor of the study with Atlas curled beside him, the hidden vault sealed again beneath their feet. Emma had fallen asleep in one of the upstairs bedrooms, wrapped in every blanket they'd brought, her breath visible in the cold air. Marcus stared at Eleanor Ashford's letter until the words blurred. His mind churned through possibilities, through fear and logistics, and the crushing weight of what they'd found. $265 million. That's what he estimated after counting just one section of the vault. Maybe more. The gold bars were stamped with dates ranging from the 1880s to the 1950s, some bearing mint marks from Carson City, others from San Francisco. Stolen during the Silver Rush, hidden for decades, left to rot under a house nobody wanted. Until him. Marcus pressed his palms against his eyes. This wasn't real. Things like this didn't happen to broken soldiers with custody battles and PTSD episodes that left them shaking on the floor at 3 a.m. Atlas lifted his head and whined softly. I know, buddy, Marcus whispered. I don't know what to do either. But he couldn't just sit here. If the gold was real, and it was, then people would come looking for it eventually. County records, auction listings, someone somewhere would connect the dots. He needed help. He needed someone who could navigate the legal nightmare this was about to become. At dawn, Marcus drove into town, a dusty Nevada settlement called Copper Basin, population barely 3,000. The main street consisted of a diner, a hardware store, a gas station, and a single-story building with a faded sign reading Basin Legal Services. He parked outside, told Atlas to stay with Emma at the diner, and walked inside. A woman looked up from behind a desk piled high with folders. She was maybe 40, sharp-eyed, with gray streaking through dark hair pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail. "Help you?" she asked. Marcus cleared his throat. "I need a lawyer." She raised an eyebrow. "You're looking at her. Diane Mercer. What's the issue? Speeding ticket? Divorce?" "Neither." Marcus hesitated. "It's complicated." Diane leaned back in her chair. "Complicated is my specialty." "Sit." He sat. "I bought a house," he started. "At auction. For $50. The Ashford place," Diane said immediately. "Heard about that. Thought whoever bought it was either brave or stupid." "Probably both," Marcus admitted. "But there's something under the house. Something I found." Diane's expression sharpened. "What kind of something?" Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her a photo he'd taken of the vault. Gold bars stacked floor to ceiling. Diane went very still. "Is this real?" "Yes." She stared at the photo for a long moment. Then she set the phone down carefully. "Mr. Rivera." "Marcus Rivera." "Mr. Rivera, do you have any idea what you've just walked into?" "Not really," he admitted. "That's why I'm here." Diane stood and locked the office door. Then she pulled the blinds. "Okay, tell me everything." Marcus told her about the auction, about Atlas finding the vault, about Eleanor Ashford's letter. Diane listened without interrupting, her expression growing more serious with each detail. When he finished, she exhaled slowly. "This is going to get messy." "How messy?" "People have killed for less," Diane said bluntly. "The county's going to want a cut. The state's going to want a cut. The IRS is going to want a massive cut. And if anyone connected to the Ashford family is still alive, they're going to claim it's rightfully theirs." Marcus's stomach sank. "So I can't keep it." "I didn't say that." Diane pulled a legal pad from her desk. "You bought the property legally. Everything on that property, including whatever's under it, belongs to you. But you need to report this. If you try to hide it, you'll end up in federal prison." "What do I do?" Diane started writing. "First, we document everything. Photos, measurements, serial numbers on the bars. Then we contact the state and federal authorities. Treasure trove laws apply here. You'll owe taxes, but if we play this right, you'll walk away with enough to change your life." Marcus felt a flicker of hope. "How long will it take?" "Months. Maybe a year." Diane looked up. "Can you wait that long?" He thought of Emma, of the custody hearing in 6 weeks, of his ex-wife's lawyer already circling like a vulture. "I don't have a year," he said quietly. Diane's expression softened. "What's the rush?" He told her about Emma, about the custody battle, about the judge's warning. When he finished, Diane was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Okay, we move fast. I'll file an emergency petition with the state, citing historical significance and your immediate need. It won't be pretty, but we'll fight." Marcus exhaled shakily. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Diane said. "This is going to get ugly before it gets better." She was right. Within a week, news of the discovery leaked. Marcus didn't know how. Maybe a clerk at the county office, maybe someone who saw him visiting Diane's office too many times. But suddenly, Copper Basin was buzzing. The diner was packed when Marcus walked in with Emma and Atlas. Conversation stopped. Eyes followed him. A man at the counter, thick-necked, sunburned, turned and said loudly, "That the guy who found the gold?" Marcus ignored him, guiding Emma to a booth. But the man didn't stop. "Heard it's worth millions. But he thinks he's special now." Atlas growled low. "Easy," Marcus whispered. The man stood, swaggering over. "You know that gold belongs to the Ashford family, right? My great-uncle worked for them. That gold's stolen." Marcus met his eyes. "If you have a legal claim, take it up with my lawyer." The man's face reddened. "Don't need a lawyer to tell you what's right. That gold's got blood on it. You touch it, you're cursed." Emma shrank against Marcus. "We're done here," Marcus said quietly. But as they left, the man called after them. "You're not going to keep it." Rivera? Nobody does. That night, Marcus woke to Atlas barking. Not the alert bark, the threat bark. He grabbed the flashlight and ran downstairs. Atlas stood in the study, hackles raised, staring at the window. Outside, a figure moved through the shadows. Marcus's pulse spiked. He moved to the window, careful to stay out of sight. A man circled the mansion, flashlight beams sweeping across the walls. He was looking for something, checking foundations, testing windows, moving with the deliberate precision of someone who knew what they were doing. Marcus pulled out his phone and called Diane. She answered on the second ring. What's wrong? Someone's outside the house. Searching. Get Emma and Atlas into the vault, Diane said immediately. Lock yourselves in. I'm calling the sheriff. Marcus ran upstairs, woke Emma, and carried her down to the study. Atlas followed, body tense. Marcus opened the vault, ushered them inside, and sealed it behind them. In the darkness, Emma whispered, Dad, what's happening? Just being careful, Marcus said, though his hands shook. Above them, footsteps creaked across the floor. Someone was inside the house. Atlas pressed against Marcus, silent now, waiting. The footsteps moved slowly, methodically, searching. Then they stopped, right above the vault. Marcus held his breath. A voice, muffled, male, said, I know you're here, Rivera, and I know what you found. Silence. That gold doesn't belong to you. It never will. More footsteps. Then the sound of the front door slamming. Marcus waited 5 full minutes before opening the vault. The mansion was empty, but on the floor of the study, someone had left a message, scrawled in dust. Leave now, or lose everything. Marcus stared at it, jaw tight. Atlas nudged his hand. Emma whispered, Are we leaving? Marcus looked at her, his daughter, scared but trusting him to keep her safe. Then he looked at the message. No, he said, we're not leaving. Because whoever wanted this gold, whoever thought they could scare him away, didn't understand one thing. Marcus Rivera had already lost everything once. He wasn't losing it again. Sheriff Kowalski arrived an hour later, a wiry man in his 50s with tired eyes and a permanent scowl. He walked through the mansion with Marcus, examining the message in the dust, checking windows for signs of forced entry. You got cameras? Kowalski asked. Not yet, Marcus admitted. Get some. The sheriff knelt beside the message, studying it. Handwriting's deliberate. Whoever did this wanted you scared, not hurt. Otherwise they would have waited for you inside. That's supposed to make me feel better? Kowalski stood, brushing dust from his knees. I'm saying this is intimidation, not violence. Yet, he looked at Marcus directly. You're stirring up old ghosts, Rivera. Ashford family had roots deep in this county. Not all of them good. Eleanor Ashford's letter said the gold was stolen, Marcus said. She wanted someone to use it for good. Doesn't matter what she wanted, Kowalski replied. Matters what people think they're owed. He headed for the door, then paused. You got a gun? Yeah. Keep it close. Kowalski tipped his hat. And get those cameras installed. Next time someone comes, I want to know who. By the end of the week, Marcus had installed motion sensor cameras around the perimeter and reinforced the mansion's doors with new locks. Diane filed the emergency petition with the state, citing Marcus's custody situation and the historical significance of the find. And then the vultures arrived. First came a lawyer representing the Ashford Family Trust, a distant cousin twice removed claiming the gold belonged to them by inheritance. Diane shut that down in one meeting. The property was sold at auction. Everything on it belongs to Mr. Rivera. You want to contest that, take it to court. Then came a developer from Las Vegas offering to buy the mansion for $2 million. As is, no questions asked. Marcus refused. Then came the reporters. A news van from Reno parked outside the mansion. Cameras pointed at the windows. Marcus refused interviews, but that didn't stop them from filming Emma playing with Atlas in the yard. Didn't stop them from running stories with headlines like Veteran Finds Fortune in Haunted Mansion and Gold Rush 2.0, The Ashford Mystery. Emma hated it. She stopped going outside, stopped smiling, spent hours in her room with Atlas pressed against her side. One night, she asked, Dad, why can't we just give it back? Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. Give it back to who, sweetheart? I don't know. Someone. So people leave us alone. He wanted to tell her it would be okay, that the attention would fade, that they'd get through this. But he couldn't lie to her. The gold was hidden for a reason, he said instead. Eleanor Ashford wanted someone to find it. Someone who needed it. He touched her hand. That's us, Em. We need this. Not just the money, the chance to start over. Emma looked at him with eyes too old for 12. What if they take you away? His throat tightened. They won't. You don't know that. She was right. He didn't. 2 weeks later, Diane called. We've got a hearing. Federal judge is reviewing the petition. If it goes well, they'll fast-track the valuation and taxation process. And if it doesn't, then it gets tied up in court for years. The hearing was set for January 15th, 2 weeks before Marcus's custody review. Everything hinged on this. The night before the hearing, Marcus sat in the vault with Atlas. Gold bars gleamed in the dim light, silent and heavy. He thought about Eleanor Ashford, about what she must have felt hiding this fortune, knowing it was built on stolen lives. He thought about his own life, deployments, explosions, the long, slow spiral after he came home, the divorce, the custody battle, the shame of standing in front of a judge and being told he wasn't stable enough to raise his own daughter. Atlas rested his head on Marcus's knee. We're going to win, Marcus whispered. We have to. The dog's eyes were steady, unwavering. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus believed it. The federal courthouse in Carson City was a cold, imposing building of gray stone and sharp angles. Marcus wore the only suit he owned, a decade old and slightly too tight. Diane walked beside him, briefcase in hand, her expression focused. Emma waited with a neighbor back in Copper Basin, Atlas by her side. Marcus hated leaving them, but Diane insisted. This hearing was technical, legal, not a place for children or dogs. Inside, the courtroom was nearly empty. Just Marcus, Diane, a state attorney, and the federal judge, a silver-haired woman named Harriet Lowe who looked like she'd seen everything twice. Judge Lowe reviewed the petition in silence, her expression unreadable. Then she looked up. Mr. Rivera, do you understand the implications of what you're asking? Marcus stood. Yes, Your Honor. You're requesting an expedited valuation and taxation process for a treasure trove worth an estimated $265 million. That's highly unusual. I understand, Your Honor, but I have a custody hearing in 2 weeks. If I can't prove financial stability, I'll lose my daughter. Judge Lowe's expression softened, just slightly. And you believe this gold will provide that stability? I believe, Marcus said carefully, that it's the chance I need to give her a real home. The state attorney stood. Your Honor, the state's position is that Mr. Rivera should be commended for reporting the find. However, standard procedure requires months of evaluation. Standard procedure, Diane interrupted, doesn't account for a veteran who purchased the property legally and is facing imminent loss of custody. Eleanor Ashford's letter makes her intent clear. She wanted this gold used for good. Delaying the process serves no one. Judge Lowe tapped her pen against the desk. Ms. Mercer, I appreciate your passion, but the law is the law. Marcus's heart sank. Then Judge Lowe continued. However, I'm inclined to make an exception. Hope flared. The state will conduct an expedited valuation over the next 10 days, Judge Lowe said. Taxation will be assessed immediately following. Mr. Rivera, you'll owe federal and state taxes, likely 40% of the total value. Can you accept that? Yes, Your Honor, Marcus said, voice shaking. Then it settled. She banged her gavel. We'll reconvene in 10 days for final assessment. Marcus walked out of the courthouse in a daze. Diane was grinning. We did it, she said. He couldn't speak, could only nod. That night, he called Emma. We won, sweetheart. She started crying. Really? Really? Does that mean you're keeping me? His throat tightened. Yeah, I'm keeping you. The state's valuation team arrived 3 days later. Geologists, historians, financial analysts, all descending on the mansion with equipment and notebooks. They spent a week cataloging every bar, every serial number, every ounce of gold. The final count, $287 million. After taxes, Marcus would walk away with $172 million. Life-changing money. Generational money. But the night before the final hearing, someone tried to burn the mansion down. Marcus woke to the smell of smoke. Atlas was barking, frantic, clawing at the bedroom door. He grabbed Emma and ran. Flames licked up the east wall, fed by gasoline someone had poured along the foundation. The fire spread fast, consuming dry wood and old paint, roaring like a living thing. Marcus dialed 911, then grabbed a hose and started spraying. Atlas barked at the tree lean, staring at something Marcus couldn't see. The fire trucks arrived within minutes, dousing the flames before they reached the vault. But the damage was done. Half the mansion's first floor was scorched, windows shattered, walls blackened. Sheriff Kowalski found the gas can in the bushes. No fingerprints. No witnesses. But Atlas led them to a set of tire tracks in the dirt. Wide, heavy, commercial grade. Whoever did this wanted to destroy evidence, Kowalski said. They knew about the vault. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then they're going to be disappointed. Because the vault was fireproof. Reinforced concrete and steel, built to withstand anything. The gold was safe. At the final hearing, Judge Lowe listened to the arson report, her expression grim. Mr. Rivera, someone clearly doesn't want you to keep this fortune. I know, Your Honor, Marcus said. But I'm not giving up. She studied him for a long moment. Then she signed the order. The gold is yours, Mr. Rivera. Use it wisely. Marcus walked out of the courthouse with Diane, his hands shaking. He called Emma immediately. We won, he said. It's over. She screamed with joy. That night, Marcus sat in the charred remains of the mansion study with Atlas. The vault beneath them held a fortune. But more than that, it held a future. He thought of Eleanor Ashford's letter. Use it to build something better. And he knew exactly what to do. 6 months later, the mansion was unrecognizable. Marcus had hired contractors to rebuild, not just repair, but transform. The Ashford estate became the Ashford House, a residential facility for veterans struggling with PTSD, homelessness, and reintegration. 20 rooms, each with a bed, a desk, and a window. A communal kitchen, a therapy center, a kennel for service dogs. Marcus used $10 million to establish an endowment, ensuring the facility would run forever. Another $5 million went to scholarships for veterans' children. The rest he put in trust for Emma's future. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, the mayor of Copper Basin called Marcus a hero. Reporters from across the state covered the story. Veterans from as far as California arrived, hope in their eyes. Emma stood beside Marcus, holding Atlas's leash. The dog's tail wagged slowly, proudly. Diane leaned over and whispered, You did it. Marcus looked at the mansion, no longer haunted, no longer broken, just full of light. We did it, he corrected. That night, after everyone left, Marcus sat on the porch with Emma and Atlas. The desert stretched out before them, vast and quiet. Emma rested her head on his shoulder. Dad, do you think Eleanor Ashford would be happy? Marcus thought about the letter, about the woman who'd hidden a fortune and waited 60 years for someone to find it. Yeah, he said softly. I think she would be. Atlas barked once, sharp and joyful. And for the first time in years, Marcus Rivera felt whole. The $50 mansion had given him everything. Not because of the gold, but because of what the gold allowed him to build. A home, a purpose, a second chance. And in the end, that was worth more than any fortune. Spring arrived in the Nevada desert like a whisper, transforming the landscape around Ashford House from brittle browns to soft greens. Wildflowers dotted the hills, and the air carried the scent of sage and new possibilities. Marcus stood on the newly rebuilt porch, watching veterans arrive in beat-up cars and donated vans, each one carrying the same worn expression he'd once seen in his own mirror, exhausted, wary, desperately hoping this place might be different. Atlas sat beside him, now 10 years old with a graying muzzle, still vigilant. The dog greeted every newcomer with a careful sniff and a gentle tail wag, as if assessing whether they belonged. He'd never been wrong yet. Emma was 14 now, taller, sharper, spending her afternoons tutoring younger kids in town and her weekends helping in the Ashford House kitchen. The custody battle felt like a distant nightmare. Her mother had eventually dropped the fight, unwilling to compete with the stability Marcus had built. Life was good, better than Marcus had ever imagined possible, which should have been his first warning. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning in late April, delivered by a courier who wouldn't make eye contact. Marcus signed for it, noting the return address, Castellano and Associates, attorneys at law, Las Vegas, Nevada. He opened it standing in his office, the morning sun streaming through windows that overlooked the gardens Emma had helped plant. Dear Mr. Rivera, we represent the Ashford Descendants Coalition, a group of 17 individuals with documented lineage to the Ashford family. Recent genealogical research has uncovered information that substantially changes the legal standing of the gold discovered on the former Ashford estate. Specifically, We have obtained records indicating that Eleanor Ashford was declared mentally incompetent in 1961, 1 year before she wrote the letter you cite as justification for claiming the gold. As such, any instructions she left regarding the disposition of family assets are legally void. We are prepared to file suit to recover the full value of the gold, plus damages. However, we are willing to settle this matter quietly if you agree to return 85% of the after-tax proceeds within 30 days. Failure to respond will result in immediate legal action. Marcus read it twice, his hand steady but his pulse climbing. Atlas whined softly, sensing the shift in his mood. "It's okay, boy," Marcus murmured, though it wasn't. He called Diane immediately. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me you're calling to invite me to lunch. I need you to read something." 20 minutes later, Diane sat across from him, the letter spread on his desk. Her expression had gone from curious to furious. "This is garbage," she said flatly. "Complete garbage. Can they actually do this?" "They can try," Diane said, already pulling up files on her laptop. "But Eleanor Ashford was never declared incompetent. I verified that during our original filing. This is a bluff." Marcus wanted to believe her, but he'd learned the hard way that legal battles weren't won with truth alone. They were won with money, time, and endurance. And whoever was behind this letter had all three. "What do we do?" he asked. Diane's fingers flew across the keyboard. "We fight. I'll file a motion to dismiss the moment they officially sue." "But Marcus," she looked up, "this is going to be expensive. These people are organized, well-funded. They're not going away quietly." Marcus thought of the veterans currently living at Ashford House, 23 men and women rebuilding their lives, depending on this place for stability. He thought of Emma, finally settled and happy. He thought of the scholarships, the therapy programs, the service dog training facility they'd just broken ground on. "I'm not giving them anything," he said. Diane nodded. "Good. Because we're going to bury them." The lawsuit dropped 2 weeks later. 17 plaintiffs, 300 pages of documentation, genealogical charts tracing back 6 generations. The lead attorney was Richard Castellano, a Las Vegas powerhouse known for winning impossible cases and destroying opponents who didn't settle. The local news picked up the story immediately. Within days, reporters were back at Ashford House, cameras rolling, asking Marcus if he'd stolen money from a family of mentally ill people. He refused all interviews. But the damage was done. Donations to Ashford House slowed. 2 scheduled grant applications were postponed pending resolution of legal matters. A veteran who'd been planning to move in next month called to cancel, saying he didn't want to get involved in something shady. Emma came home from school quiet one afternoon, her backpack slung low. "What happened?" Marcus asked. "Nothing, Em." She dropped her bag. "Some kids said you stole the money, that you're going to lose everything." Her voice cracked. "Are we?" Marcus pulled her into a hug. "No, we're not losing anything." But he wasn't sure he believed it. That night, unable to sleep, Marcus descended into the vault. It was different now, mostly empty, the gold long since sold and converted to accounts managed by financial advisors. But he'd kept one corner exactly as he'd found it. Eleanor Ashford's table, her journal, her letter preserved in a climate-controlled case. He sat in the chair she must have sat in and read her letter again. "If you found this room, you were meant to. Use it to build something better than what the Ashfords destroyed. Give it purpose. Give it light." Marcus pressed his palms to his eyes. "I'm trying," he whispered. "I'm trying to do what you asked." Atlas descended the stairs slowly, joints stiff with age, and rested his head on Marcus's knee. "What do I do, buddy?" The dog's eyes were steady, patient, as if saying you already know. Marcus exhaled slowly. Eleanor's journal. He'd read it once, briefly, when he first found it. Mostly personal reflections, guilt about her family's legacy, mentions of hiding the gold. But now, he opened it again, searching for something he'd missed. He flipped through pages of careful handwriting, entries spanning from 1959 to 1962. Most were mundane, weather observations, visits from townspeople, worries about her failing health. Then he found an entry from March 1961 that made his breath catch. "They came today. 3 men in suits, claiming to represent the family. They say I'm not well, that I need to be protected. But I know what they really want, the gold. They've been searching for years, and somehow they know I have it. I refused to speak with them, told them to leave. But I fear they will return with documents, with judges, With authority, I cannot fight. I must hide the truth deeper. Not just the gold, but the proof of how it was obtained. Father's ledgers. Grandfather's contracts. Everything that shows the blood this fortune was built on. Marcus's heart pounded. Ledgers. Contracts. Proof of how the gold was stolen. He flipped forward, searching for more. April 1961. I've sealed the documents in the second chamber. Only someone who truly needs this truth will find it. The lawyers will search the obvious places, but the real secrets lie deeper still. Second chamber. Marcus stood, looking around the vault. It was a single room, reinforced walls, shelves, the table. No doors. No obvious passages. But Eleanor Ashford had proven she was skilled at hiding things. Atlas began pacing along the north wall, nose working overtime. What is it? Marcus whispered. The dog scratched at the concrete, whining. Marcus knelt beside him, running his hands along the wall. It felt solid, seamless. Then his fingers caught on something. A hairline crack, barely visible, running vertically from floor to ceiling. His pulse spiked. He pressed along the crack, searching for a mechanism. Nothing. He tried pushing, pulling, twisting. Nothing. Atlas barked once, sharp, then pawed at a specific spot near the floor. Marcus pressed there. A soft click echoed through the vault. The section of wall swung inward. Not a door, a panel, revealing a narrow passageway beyond. Cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of old paper and dust. Marcus grabbed his flashlight and stepped inside. The passage was tight, barely wide enough for his shoulders. It extended about 20 feet, then opened into a second chamber, smaller than the vault, maybe 10 by 10, with a single metal filing cabinet against the far wall. Atlas squeezed in beside him, tail wagging nervously. Marcus approached the cabinet. Unlike everything else, this was modern, installed recently, maybe within the last decade. A note was taped to the front, written in different handwriting than Eleanor's. Shakier, more recent. If you're reading this, you found Eleanor's chamber. Good. She was right about you. I'm Thomas Mercer, Eleanor's nurse during her final years. She asked me to update her hiding place, to make sure the truth survived even after she was gone. The documents in this cabinet prove the Ashford family's crimes. Theft, fraud, murder. Eleanor wanted them found, but only by someone strong enough to use them. The family tried to have her declared incompetent in 1961. They failed, but they never stopped searching for the gold or the evidence. Be careful. They're dangerous. TM, 2019. Marcus opened the cabinet with trembling hands. Inside were folders, thick and carefully organized. Ledgers from the 1880s documenting how Marcus Ashford Sr. had swindled miners out of their claims. Contracts showing bribes paid to judges and sheriffs. Letters detailing threats made to families who refused to sell their land. And at the bottom, a file labeled Incompetency Petition, Denied. Marcus pulled it out. Inside was a court order from 1961, signed by a Nevada district judge, explicitly rejecting the Ashford family's attempt to have Eleanor declared incompetent. Petitioners have failed to provide credible medical evidence of mental incapacity. Mrs. Ashford is fully competent and capable of managing her affairs. Petition denied. Marcus's hands shook as he read it. This was the proof, the evidence that destroyed the descendants' entire case. Eleanor Ashford hadn't been incompetent. She'd been fighting off her own family, protecting the truth until someone worthy could find it. Atlas barked, urgent. Marcus looked up. Footsteps echoed from the vault above. Someone was in the mansion. Marcus killed his flashlight and pressed against the wall of the chamber. Atlas growled low, body tense. The footsteps moved slowly, deliberately, across the floor of the main vault. Then they stopped. I know you're down here, Rivera. The voice was smooth, confident. Richard Castellano. Marcus's jaw tightened. Your cameras are decent, Castellano continued, but not decent enough. I've been watching this place for weeks, waiting for you to do exactly what you just did, go searching for Eleanor's secrets. Footsteps moved closer to the hidden passage. You think you've won something, Castellano said. But here's the truth. It doesn't matter what you find. My clients have the resources to bury you in legal fees for years. You'll spend every dollar fighting us, and eventually, you'll break. Atlas's growl deepened. Unless, Castellano's voice softened, you're smart. Walk away now. Give us 70%. I've convinced my clients to be generous, and you keep the rest. You keep this facility, your reputation, your daughter's future. Marcus didn't move. Or, Castellano continued, I come back with a court order, seize everything, and you lose it all, including custody of Emma. Marcus's blood went cold. That's when Atlas lunged. The dog shot through the passage, barking viciously. Castellano yelped, stumbling backward. Marcus ran after him, bursting into the vault to find Castellano pressed against the wall, Atlas standing between them, teeth bared. Call him off, Castellano shouted. Atlas, hold, Marcus commanded. The dog didn't attack, but he didn't move either. Marcus held up the file. You want to know what I found? Proof that Eleanor Ashford was never incompetent. Proof that your client's case is a lie. Castellano's eyes flicked to the file, then back to Marcus. Doesn't matter. We'll argue the documents are forged, that you planted them. It's your word against 17 descendants. It's a court order, Marcus said. Signed by a judge. Public record. For the first time, Castellano's confidence wavered. Get out, Marcus said quietly. And tell your clients if they come after me again. I'm releasing every document Eleanor hid. The theft, the fraud, the murders. The Ashford name will be destroyed. Castellano straightened his suit. You're making a mistake. No, Marcus said. You made the mistake when you threatened my daughter. Atlas barked once, final and sharp. Castellano left. The next morning, Marcus called Diane and showed her everything. She read the documents with growing disbelief. This is incredible. This ends the lawsuit immediately. Will they try again? They might. But Marcus, if you release these documents publicly, you'll destroy them. Completely. Marcus thought about it. About the Ashford descendants, whoever they were, living their lives, probably not knowing the full truth of where their family's wealth came from. Then he thought about the veterans at Ashford House. About Emma. About Eleanor, who'd spent her final years trying to make things right. We release everything, he said. Eleanor wanted the truth out. That's what we'll give her. The documents went public 2 weeks later. Newspapers across Nevada ran the story. Ashford family legacy built on theft and murder, descendants' lawsuit collapses. The lawsuit was withdrawn within 48 hours. Richard Castellano released a statement saying his clients had been misled by incomplete information and would not pursue further action. The veterans at Ashford House threw a celebration. Emma baked a cake. Atlas got extra treats and a new toy. And that night, Marcus returned to the vault one last time. He stood in front of Eleanor's letter, preserved behind glass. We did it, he whispered. The truth is out. You're free. Atlas sat beside him, tail thumping softly. Outside, spring was giving way to summer. The desert was blooming. And Ashford House stood strong, a beacon for those who needed it most. The $50 mansion had given Marcus everything. But more than that, it had given him the chance to honor a promise made by a woman he'd never met. To build something better. To give it purpose. To give it light. And that light would burn for generations to come.